I'm in Luke's Gospel, chapter 9, verses 51 through 56. Luke's Gospel, chapter 9, verses 51 through 56. And the good thing about it is I'm still on Reels and Stories. I don't know when I'm going to come out of that, but I am still in Reels and Stories. So Jesus is dealing with people on his team who are looking at other folk pages. And the scripture says, now it came to pass when the time had come for him to be received up, that he steadfastly set his face to go to Jerusalem, and sent messengers before his face. And as they went, they entered a village of Samaritans to prepare for him. But they did not receive him, because his face was set for the journey to Jerusalem. And when his disciples, James and John, saw this, they said, Lord, do you want us to command fire to come down from heaven and consume them, just as Elijah did? But he turned and rebuked them and said, you do not know the manner of spirit you are of. For the Son of Man did not come to destroy men's lives, but to save them. And they went to another village. Catch this. James and John have gone to Elijah's page from back in the day, saw something that they liked, shared it with Jesus, and they recommend a situation for how they should handle the Samaritans. Jesus, on the other hand, reminds them of what he came to do. And for a few short moments, I want to speak from the subject of misunderstanding the assignment. Misunderstanding the assignment. Look at somebody and ask, do you understand the assignment? Father, we thank you again for this opportunity to share. And I pray, Father, that you will be uplifted, that you will be exalted, Father, and that we will move how you would have us to move. Be blessed today. Speak through me, Lord, in a way that reaches these your people. In Jesus' name, amen. As I pondered this week's message, one of the things that I asked the Lord is it out of the realm of possibility for me to expect to walk in your level of faithfulness? His level of faithfulness can be surmised in, I only do what I see my Father do. And in John's Gospel, chapter 5, verse 19, Jesus makes this statement about his obedience to the Father in the wake of threats upon his life for perceived violations on the Sabbath. And out of this statement, Jesus reveals that his faithfulness to the Father is even unto death. Therefore, if they killed him for what they perceived as a violation to the Sabbath, or if they left him alone, they can't stop what God has ordained. And do you realize that God has made you people-proof? I'm going to say that again, because some of y'all don't believe it because you're so beholden to other people. God has made you people-proof. And if they threaten you, they can't stop you. If they ignore you, they can't stop you. You going to have to leave you alone anyway. And as long as you're doing what you see the Father do, you can withstand being misunderstood. Did you hear me? As long as you're doing what the Father would have you to do, you can withstand being misunderstood. I'm okay if you don't understand me. I'm okay if you misunderstand me. I'm okay if you get me confused with someone else. I'm okay if you don't see things the way I see it, because at the end of the day, the problem is a lot of what we do hasn't been people proof, and that's why we get a little perturbed when people question what we do. But when you've been people proof by God, you don't care what other people think. You don't care what they misunderstand or what they do understand. Oh my God, too often we do stuff that we get from somewhere else, and we end up exacerbated by what it is that we've been through, and don't understand that the criticism that we're experiencing is because we're going through something that we've seen someone else do, and it was God ordained for them. But just because it was God ordained for them doesn't necessarily mean it was God ordained for me. But what you have to understand is that when you do what the Father has given you to do, you are able to withstand being misunderstood. Look at somebody and say, I can withstand being misunderstood. Ooh, because I'm doing what the Father told me to do. I'm where the Father told me to be. Ooh, my will is to do what the Father says. My meat is to do what the Father says. My satisfaction is in doing what the Father would be satisfied in. My pleasure is in doing what the Father would be pleased with. I can handle and withstand being misunderstood because the thing that I'm doing is what the Father would have me to do. And too many people are upset. Too many people are experiencing F's on their grades because they don't understand their assignment. They doing stuff they ain't studied for. Oh, I'm getting that in a minute. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me go on. Here it is. I need you to understand, it's not that what you picked up from other people is wrong or ungodly. It's simply that it's not God ordained for you. You see stuff on social media and you want to do it. You see stuff on other people's pages and you want to mimic it. You see what other people doing, the vacations they're taking it, and all the stuff that they're doing in ministry or in business or in academics or in economics or whatever the case may be, and you want to do it. But you've got to ask yourself, am I really doing what God has ordained for me? Because if I'm doing what God has ordained for me, it don't matter what doesn't come my way. It don't matter what I think I might have missed out on. It don't matter who left me. It don't matter how abandoned I may feel. It don't matter who reject me. As long as I'm doing what God has ordained me to do, I can withstand being misunderstood. And so we mimic what God is doing for someone else in their context. And you've got to know your context so that you can stay within the safety of God's will for you. And here's the flip side to that, because some of y'all are troubled and some of y'all are a little bit frustrated and some of y'all feel some type of way. The flip side of that is this: just because God ordained a way to use you doesn't mean that his way for you is inferior to what he's doing in someone else. Did you hear me? Just because God ordained a way for you and the way he uses you, the way he touches you, the way he speaks through you, the way he has you serving and serves through you, it doesn't mean that it's inferior to what he's doing in somebody else. And I need you to understand that sometimes when God uses us in a certain way, we tend to acquiesce when we get into other environments to the way that he's using somebody else, as if we're inferior, as if the tools he's given us ain't good enough, as if the instructions he's given us ain't good enough, as if the assignment he has for us isn't good enough. And now that we're in a different environment and it requires something else, instead of asking God to help us to enhance in what he's given us, we start trying to do what we've seen him do in somebody else. You got to understand that what God has put in you, it's for you. It has power for the moment that you're in. It has purpose for the moment that you're in. It has what you need for the moment that you're in. And if you try to do something else and carry yourself in a totally different way, it's not going to work the way it should work if you work the thing that God gave you. Look at somebody say, you misunderstanding the assignment. Here it is. We don't have to like ourselves under certain under certain conditions. We don't have to act as if we don't like what God is doing in us, and we do stuff to try and to provoke a response that isn't within the scope of our understanding. And while we're going through all of the antics, while we're going through all of the rigmarole, the Lord is looking at us like, you don't know the manner of spirit you are. Ooh, that's a double-edged sword, because what he's saying here is first of all, you don't know the spirit by which you want to mimic someone else. And on the flip side of that is, you don't know what I put in you that will be right for the situation. So you don't know the spirit of what you are. You don't know the spirit by which you want to do and mimic, but you also don't know the spirit by what I put inside of you to make a difference in this world. And too often we're walking around confused about who we are, what we're supposed to be doing, where we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to do it, and we don't really understand the spirit of who we are. When you understand the spirit of who you are, when you go into an environment, you like, I'm the one that's supposed to be here. My feet are supposed to be planted here. My purpose is in this. My heart is in this. My mind is in this. My spirit is in this. Somebody say yeah. You don't know the spirit by which you are, the manner of spirit you are. You have picked something up from somewhere else, and you've gotten a hold of something you've seen or heard from somewhere else, and it doesn't fit anything that I've ordained for you. Woo. The question is, where you get that from? Where you get that from? You done picked up on something that I didn't commission you in. You done picked up on something that you ain't even seen in me. What's wrong with you? You ain't seen me act like this. You ain't seen me try to crush people. You ain't seen me try to hurt nobody. Why you all of a sudden want to hurt people? Well, because hurt people hurt people. Watch this. What I appreciate about Luke's writing is he's very detailed because he was a physician. And Luke gives us a lot of context to pull from while developing our interpretation of passages of scripture within his book. Therefore, when you read his gospel, A lot of the chapters are lengthy, but if you're patient, Luke gives you a lot to work with. I like Luke because Luke just ain't skimming over the top. He ain't just giving you a few statements here and a few statements there. He ain't cutting things off too short. He's at length. And sometimes when the book is lengthy and when the chapters get lengthy, we get bored and we don't want to get to the end of the chapter. And we think we done got everything we need to get. But Luke gives us a lot to work with. And I need you to understand that what I've noticed about Luke is Luke puts emphasis on the shortcomings of all three of the disciples that's closest to Jesus. We know that there are three disciples that's the closest to Jesus. There are Peter, James, and John. However, why Peter always get all the bad commentary? Oh, yeah, we talk about Peter. We say all kinds of stuff about Peter. Peter always getting all the bad commentary, but we don't talk about James and John. Oh, my God, all we do is focus on Peter. And isn't it interesting, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, that some people's dysfunction is allowed to fly under the radar while certain folks get zeroed in on? Did y'all hear me? Some people's dysfunction is allowed to fly under the radar. Don't nobody ever pick up on it. Don't nobody ever call them out on it. Don't nobody ever point it out to nobody that this is dysfunctional. Something's wrong with them. Oh yeah, we call John the disciple that Jesus loved. Oh, but we don't see the John that was ready to call down fire on innocent people. We don't say nothing about that. And isn't it interesting, ladies and gentlemen, that some people's sin get pointed out while other people's sin get covered up? Certain folks can't do nothing without it being publicized, while other people's behavior goes unnoticed and virtually unpunished. Peter responded. I need y'all to catch this. Watch this. Peter responded incorrectly in some moments, but James and John suggested premeditated murder. Okay. I think that went over y'all head. Peter responded incorrectly in some moments. When Jesus told his disciples what was going to happen to him in Jerusalem, and Peter said, "No, it's not going to happen to you," Jesus rebuked them. When Peter denied Jesus 3 times after saying he wouldn't deny Jesus 3 times, Jesus reconciled with them. When Peter cussed out a little girl and told another man off, Jesus forgave him. But I don't see anywhere in the text. I know he cut one brother ear off who tried to come and arrest Jesus, but I don't see where Peter gave a recommendation of premeditated murder to kill some innocent people. Oh boy, is this too much for reverse service? I'm sorry. Is it too early? My God. And it amazes me, ladies and gentlemen, that we can't keep Peter's name out of our mouth. Ooh, but it amazes me whose sin get overlooked and whose sin get talked about. You caught me in a bad moment and now you talking about me. I said the wrong thing at the wrong time, but now you talking about me. I went in the wrong place that I shouldn't have gone into, and now you talking about me. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, there's a whole lot of stuff that the Lord prevented from you doing and didn't allow it to get out to nobody, that if we knew what you did and what the Lord covered up and what the Lord didn't allow to get out, you wouldn't be able to stand on your own. Quit talking about me over the mistake I made, and while your stuff is being covered up, it's his grace and his mercy that's covering yours. Can you imagine? Can you imagine what would have happened if Jesus wasn't there to prevent that? Yet we go around talking about what someone else did and forget about what the Lord covered up for us. What the Lord didn't allow to go public. What the Lord kept in the closet. What the Lord kept secret. The dumb decision we were about to make. The ridiculous thing we were about to do. The foolish behavior we used to have. Yeah, my stuff got caught on tape, but your stuff was kept hidden. But if the Lord snatched the covers off you, who will be able to stand? It amazes me how we handle people who make the mistake and they go public, but we cover up for the folk that we like. And I ain't saying that's what Jesus did in the situation. Jesus prevented a catastrophe, which brings me to some interesting things we need to focus on regarding James and John. Luke reveals some things about James and John, and he tells us Jesus is headed towards Jerusalem to fulfill his purpose. And how do we know this? The text says, now it came to pass, when the time had come for him to be received up, that he steadfastly set his face to go to Jerusalem. Watch this. Y'all ain't gonna believe this. Jesus is the most focused he's ever been. Yet James and John are the most insecure they've ever been. Jesus is the most focused he's ever been, but James and John are the most insecure they've ever been. Ask me how I know. In verse 49, it tells us that John confessed to Jesus that they stopped someone from doing the Father's will on Jesus' behalf. Not because he wasn't called to, not because he wasn't doing it right, but watch this, because he wasn't one of us. Oh boy. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. There's two things we got to get from this, ladies and gentlemen. Watch this. The first is, isn't it amazing that right when you start to influence people beyond your circle, the folk within your circle become insecure? Right when you start influencing people beyond your circle, it's the people within your circle that respond to your influence going outside of the circle insecurely. They didn't have a problem with Jesus influencing them. But once Jesus started to reach folk they didn't approve of, now it's a problem. Oh yeah. Ooh, can I tell you, people will love what you're doing until you start doing it for someone else. People will love what you do. They'll love how you do it. They'll love where you do it. They'll love why you do it, as long as you're doing it for them. But the moment that you start doing it for somebody else, ooh, they get a little insecure. The moment that you start doing it for somebody else, they get a little tiffy. They start feeling some type of way. They start acting like that's reserved for me. How dare you do it for him? How dare you allow that person to enjoy that? That's for me to enjoy. How dare you allow that person person to experience that. That's for me to experience. And they become insecure when your influence start going beyond the circle that you're in, because they feel like it's theirs. They feel like what you do, they have a right to it. They have a right to say that. They have a right to have that. Why is it you allowing that person to do it? You know what Jesus told them? Simple philosophy. If they ain't against us, they for us. Why would you stop a brother from doing something in my name and it was working and lives were being changed just because he ain't a part of the clique? Just because he ain't a part of the circle, just because he's not a part of the intersanctum of what we do, you got this all twisted. You trying to create an organization. I'm trying to create a movement. Jesus said, bro, if they ain't against us, they for us. At least somebody's being influenced to do something in my name. He wasn't with us. You got to watch folk who make it about them when what really needs to happen is for you to do what God has called you to do according to what he's commissioned you to do. And this brings me to the second thing we need to get from this. Y'all want it or what? The closer you get to destiny, the more territorial the people around you become. I'm going to say that again. The closer you get to destiny, the more territorial the people around you become. The closer you get to fulfilling what it is that God has called you to do, the more territorial the people around you become. Watch this. They don't want anybody else around you. They don't want anyone else to be inspired by you. They'll act like they're the reason it's working. They're the reason why you're doing so well. And then they'll act as if they don't do it, it won't get done. But God told me to tell you, the reason folk act like that, because y'all won't check them. And where he's taking you, you can't have closed-minded people around you. Where God is taking you, you can't have people around you who's closing the circle and making the circle tighter. You can't have territorial folks in your circle. This is bigger than your friends. This is bigger than your family. This is bigger than your circle. You've got to understand that where God is taking you, it requires you to be more open. It requires you to understand that the Spirit of the Lord is permeating and penetrating the hearts of people around you, that he's preparing people to join forces with you that you haven't even laid eyes on yet. You haven't even come into contact with yet. He's put your name on people's hearts and minds, and they don't even know you. They don't even know who you. They've never laid eyes on you. And God is saying that you got to understand that when you start getting closer to your destiny, the people around you become territorial. And the reason why, watch this, the reason why many of us can't elevate, the people say that they're protecting us, but they're projecting their insecurities under the guise of protecting you. They're projecting under the guise of protecting. They're projecting their insecurities under the guise of protecting you. I don't want to see you get hurt, so I can't let that person get close to you. How you know they gonna hurt me? I don't want to see you be disappointed, so I won't. I'm not going to suggest that you submit that application. How you know I'm going to be disappointed? I don't want to see you get upset because I know how you are when you get upset. So I'm going to suggest that you don't go there. No, how you know? I just told y'all last week that sometimes the rumor is a necessary evil to get you to the truth. So I'm going to take that rumor and I'm going to get to the truth. But some stuff I got to find out on my own. And don't you sit up here projecting your insecurity under the guise of protecting me. I don't need your protection. God got me. God has my back. God is the one lifting me. God is the lifter of my head. What I need your protection for? Don't sit here and say that you protected me when you're really projecting your insecurity. You'll know who excited for you when you start ascending, even if it means you ascending from them. Some people are only cool with you as long as you're on the level where they met you. But the moment that you start ascending to a level that even goes beyond them, some of them stop cheering for you. The claps get a little less. The go-aheads get a little lower. You've got to understand that, ladies and gentlemen, some people will project their insecurity and say that I'm protecting you when it's in fact they insecure about what God is taking you. Okay. Some of y'all ain't said amen all day. If that didn't help you, maybe this will help you. Watch this. Jesus is unbothered by the Samaritan village, but James and John, they are. And it seemed to me that Jesus probably wouldn't even notice there was a problem if James and John didn't bring it up. Okay. Why would I say that? Because his focus is on Jerusalem, or a better way of putting it is, his focus is on the cross. Watch this. I got something else to tell you. Y'all ain't gonna believe this because this ain't never happened to y'all. Be careful of people who create unnecessary tension when you're about to get out and do something major. Be careful of people who create unnecessary tension when you're about to get out and step out and do something major. Catch this. Just because their feelings are hurt, just because they feel rejected, they're willing to go scorched earth without considering the negative publicity it would generate to what Jesus is about to do. Ooh, y'all missed that. Ooh, just because their feelings are hurt, just because they feel rejected, just because they feel upset, they're willing to burn everything up, not considering the negative publicity that will follow Jesus to the big assignment that he's trying to fulfill. Lord, do you want us to command fire down from heaven and consume them just like Elijah did? Jesus like, bro, I'm trying to bring salvation from heaven. I'm trying to bring grace from heaven. I'm trying to get the Father in from heaven. I ain't need no fire. I'm not trying to do people harm from heaven. Keep heaven out of this. Keep my name out your mouth. Keep my purpose out of this. Don't you realize that if you do this, it's going to bring negative publicity to what I got to do a week from now? They willing to to burn the whole village, not considering what Jesus is trying to do. And can I tell y'all something? Still be y'all friend? You don't need people around you at critical moments in your life because they are controlled by their feelings. And if they don't get their way, they'll burn down everything you trying to build. Did y'all hear what I said? You don't need people around you who get in their feelings at critical moments, because if they don't get their way, they'll burn down everything you trying to build. They'll burn your reputation. They'll burn your influence. They'll burn your character. They'll burn your name. They'll burn everything that you stand for. They'll burn everything that you trying to accomplish, because they didn't get their way, because they in their feelings, because they don't feel like doing what's right. They'll burn I know I'm preaching better than y'all looking. They'll burn everything that God has called you to do when they don't get their way. And some of us are where we are now because we had the wrong person with us at a critical moment, and now we burned. Your name is smoke. What you said you was going to do is soot. Your purpose is in ashes because you had the wrong person around you at the wrong time who got in their feelings and decided to burn everything. Watch this, Angel. You ain't going to believe this. This probably ain't never happened to you. This probably ain't never happened to Mr. Perez. This probably never happened to Lola. But they'll burn everything that you built and then come back later as if nothing ever happened. Y'all better hear me today. Woo! Because sometimes we have too many people around us who got mental problems. They need some medication. They need some counseling. They need to be on somebody's couch. They need to go and sit down somewhere and get somebody to talk to them, because they'll burn stuff and then act like it never happened. You sitting there, your hair singed, eyebrows gone, smelling like mesquite barbecue. And they'll come back to you and act like, man, what happened to you? Like they ain't did nothing. And there are some people that you don't need around you at critical moments, because their behavior is, I don't get my way, oh my God, if they don't listen to my idea, I'm gonna tear the whole project down. If I don't get my way, I ain't gonna act right. I'm gonna have an attitude. I'm gonna chase some people off. I'm gonna tell some people, talk about them behind their back. Why? Because I didn't get my way. You got to be careful of people who are willing to burn everything down that you build because they ain't get their way. They didn't care nothing about Jesus' reputation. They ain't care nothing about the cross. They didn't care nothing about Calvary. Woo! They was just intoxicated with something that they saw, something that they read, a tweet they came around, an article, a blog somebody retweeted, something somebody reposted. They just wanted to do something that had nothing to do with what Jesus was trying to accomplish. They didn't care nothing about Calvary. Can you imagine what would have been waiting on Jesus? We knew what was going to happen. But what if the storyline was, yeah, he said he the Savior. Man, they burnt them Samaritans up. When nobody had gotten saved. nobody would have given their life to the Lord. People don't think. They just focus on what it is that they feel in the moment, and they act on that impulse and don't think about the long range ramifications of their actions. This bigger than your feelings, James and John. This bigger than your insecurities. This bigger than your ego. This is bigger than you feeling rejected. Uh-oh. I got to move on because I got to go a little deeper. Could I go a little deeper? Watch this. You know what I noticed? What I noticed is Jesus never told them where to go, but he only expected them to find a place to go for him to rest while he was on his journey to his goal. Watch this. They chose the Samaritan village. He didn't. But by the way the text read, they were supposed to be rejected so that Jesus could end up closer to his goal. Okay. Let me drink a little water because y'all tripping. Catch this. They made a wrong turn, but their way of dealing with their mistake was to burn up the cover up. They chose to burn up to cover up their mistake. Hear me, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. It's better to own your mistake than to do something worse to deal with your mistake. Did y'all hear me? It's better to own your mistake than to commit a worse mistake to cover up a mistake. Because sometimes the cover up is worse than the crime. Did y'all hear me? Sometimes the cover up is worse than the crime. Don't be the person who attempts to correct a mistake with an even greater mistake. And I know people who have done that. I know men who have stepped out on their wives and gotten women pregnant and went and killed the woman who they got pregnant. Man, listen, put me on child support. This is what I did. You want to put me out the house? I own that, but I ain't going to jail trying to cover up what I did. I had a good time one time. I slipped up. I ain't going to jail over that. I did it. Put me on child support. Put me out the house, and I'll just go on with my life, but I ain't going to prison. Trying to cover a mistake. Catch this as well. Watch this. By rejecting Jesus, the Samaritans were more in God's will than James and John's attempt to protect Jesus. Ooh, I'm going to say that again. By rejecting Jesus, the Samaritans are more in God's will than James and John's attempt at protecting Jesus. Why do I say this? Them rejecting him got him closer to where he was supposed to be. Can I tell y'all something? Still be y'all friend? Rejection is a gift. Rejection is a gift. Ask me why. Because you don't want to be somewhere you ain't supposed to be too long and miss destiny. And some of us are in our feelings over being rejected, but when God rejected you, watch this. It was a simple fix that when God rejected them or allowed them to be rejected, when God allowed them to be rejected, it was a simple fix. Guess what happened? They went to the next village. It ain't that complicated. We make it complicated. We want it to be complicated. We want to wear our feelings on our sleeve. We want to walk around like somebody owe us something. We want to be mad about being rejected. We want to be upset about being rejected. But being rejected is a gift, because the thing that you're trying to get caught up in is going to hold you up from destiny. Allow the rejection to minister to you. I pray rejection ministers to you in this season. I pray you go through a season of rejection so that you can get to where you're supposed to be. I pray that you go through a season of rejection so that you can find yourself where God will have you. Rejection is a gift. It was good for me that I was afflicted, that I may find the ways of the Lord. Rejection is a gift. Because you don't want to be somewhere too long and miss destiny. Can I give y'all something else Winston Churchill said? I gave y'all Winston Churchill last week. I quoted Churchill. I'm going to quote Churchill again. Churchill said that you can't stop to throw stones at every barking dog along the way in your journey, because if you do, you will never get to your destination. And many of us have spent our whole life throwing stones at stuff that don't even matter. We've been held up by stuff that don't matter. We've been caught up by stuff that don't matter. We engage arguments that don't matter. We engage people that don't matter. We engage ideas that don't matter. And the only thing it's doing is holding you up from getting to your destination. They hung up on they rejected us. And they about to waste precious time trying to get even with who rejected them, when there's a whole nother village ready to receive them. Did you hear what I said? Catch this, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. I need you to understand that there's always somebody ready to receive you. There's always a place for you to go. There's always something that God is doing in the rejection. And how many times have we held up progress and held up our destiny because we were tied up on who rejected us? There's always somebody ready to receive you. There's always somebody ready to embrace you. Get on with the getting on. I'm in a season right now. I'm like, man, reject me now or reject me later. But brother, reject me so I can get to where I need to go. Because I ain't got time to waste with people who just taking up my time, who just wasting my time, who just wasting my energy and killing my focus. All right. I'm here now. I know it's reverse Sunday. Here it is. Watch this. All of that about James and John is damning enough. But you want to know what the most damning part is? They suggested something they never even saw Jesus do. They suggested something to Jesus that they never saw him do. Watch this in Luke's Gospel, chapter 9, verse 1. Jesus gave his disciples power and authority to overcome demons and cure diseases. Yet now James and John is claiming power he never gave them. Somebody say, uh-oh. He gave them power to heal. He gave them power to help. He gave them power to give people hope. But now they claiming power to do people harm. Can I tell you? Some people don't know how to handle power. They think that just because God used them one way, they're now authorized to be used another way. This grown folk message today, baby. Ooh, you think just because God used you one way that now you are authorized to be used in another way that he hasn't authorized you? What are you talking about? You sit up here talking about calling down fire. Man, I gave you the power to heal. I gave you the power to help. I gave you the power to give hope. And now you claiming the power to do people harm? Where did that come from? But wait a minute. I'm still trying to understand this. Because it ain't like Jesus didn't tell them how to handle rejection. Can I play with this a little bit? It ain't like Jesus didn't tell them how to handle rejection. Jesus never sent them in the way expecting everybody to receive them. Jesus told them at the same time that he empowered them that if anyone rejects you, your response is to shake the dust off of your feet as a testimony against them. Where you get this burn people up stuff from? I told you rejection was coming. I told you that people wasn't going to receive you. I told you that everybody wasn't going to be for you. I told you what to do under those circumstances. Where you get this burn them up from? I told you to shake the dust off of your feet and move on to the next city. You come back to me now talking about burning folk up. Can I mess with this a little bit more? It makes you wonder how many people did James and John burn when Jesus wasn't looking? How many people did you leave crispy critter when Jesus wasn't looking? How many people did you put in the fryer when Jesus wasn't looking? How many people did you just scorch when Jesus wasn't looking? They done burnt folk up while Jesus wasn't looking. They done picked up on some new idea while Jesus wasn't looking. They done left trash heaps and piles of ashes in the wake while Jesus wasn't looking. And it makes you wonder what some people will do when the leader ain't looking. It makes you wonder what some people would do when the leader ain't looking. The leader left you with instructions and you do something else. The leader told you what to expect and equipped you for the expecting, but you respond in a way that's in your feelings. You respond in a way because your feelings are hurt. You respond in a way that's antithetical to what the leader instructed you to do. Jesus just so happened to be there this time. Can I tell you something? Still be your friend. A good rule of thumb is if you don't see the leader do it, don't you do it. And even if you see the leader do it, there are certain things that the leader is authorized to do that you ain't authorized to do. And too often we get in trouble because we pick up something from our favorite preacher, our favorite online personality, our favorite talking head, and we try to do it, and it's unauthorized. I need y'all to understand something. This ain't no control freak. I ain't being controlling, but I only want done here what I've been authorized to do. And the reason why I say that is because God has set me as the designated voice in this house. And so if I don't do it, don't you do it. If you ain't seen me do it, don't you do it. And if you got a question about it, talk with me about it first, and we'll get it sorted out before you do it. Because you got to understand that sometimes we do stuff when leaders aren't looking, and it's burning folk. Oh boy, I done lost some people. Said that, just say this, watch this. The worst thing we can do is stuff unauthorized to do, and now damage control delays destiny. Did y'all hear me? Damage control delays destiny. Because what ends up happening is too many people have to forfeit destiny because now they're dealing with damage control. Their reputation is damaged. Everything associated with them is damaged. Everything that they ever wanted to do is damaged. And so now they spend the rest of their life, time that they could have been working on something, time that they could have used building something, time that they could have used growing something. Now they're spending it on damage control, because damage control delays destiny. Give me some music. These folk ready to go. I done went over on Reverse Sunday. Catch this. I asked the Lord something because Jesus nicknamed James and John sons of thunder. And many scholars believe that Jesus gave them that name because of what they suggested to the Samaritans. So I was asking the Lord, why sons of thunder? Why not sons of lightning? Because lightning strikes and it can produce fire, and they wanted fire to come from heaven and to consume the people. Why thunder and not lightning? You know what the Lord revealed to me? Reason why he said thunder is because thunder is intimidation with no real power. We hear thunder and it scares us, but the thunder can't harm us. It's the lightning we need to be afraid of. And James and John were trying to use intimidation with no real power, because they couldn't do what Jesus didn't authorize them to do anyway. They were making a suggestion of doing something they ain't studied, something they ain't experienced, something they know nothing about. And unless Jesus had authorized them to do it, they couldn't do it no way. So why you making a suggestion that you can't fulfill? It's thunder without power. Too often that's what we operating in. Thunder without power. And this is why context is important, because they suggested to do what they saw on Elijah's page. not understanding that that was Elijah's assignment to deal with a rebellious people who had been worshiping Baal. Your assignment is different. Your assignment isn't to destroy people. Your assignment is to reconcile people. So why you want to destroy them? Look at somebody and say, don't misunderstand the assignment. You got to know the context by which God has you in and what he's called you to do. Because if you don't, you will mop the floor with folk when you're supposed to be healing people, when you're supposed to be reconciling people, when you're supposed to be lifting people. You want to go around here. I heard somebody say the other day, I wish we had prophets of old. No, you don't. Because the prophets of old in the Old Testament, when God sent them, it was because there was rebellion to the point that a warning was needed. And if you didn't heed the warning, destruction was coming. Why you think that when God sent Samuel to anoint David and sent Samuel to David's village, the men stopped and said, do you come in peace? Because when a real prophet came, the hammer was finna be handled. Something was finna come down big. We don't need the prophets of old anymore. We got Jesus. All we need to do is obey and follow him. You don't want the prophets of old, baby. They ain't played.